Alright, so with presentation theory, we talked about where to begin, how to think about the audience. We talked about the audience, the message, the medium, and finally you and your role as the speaker. So remember at the very end, we talked about where to begin with your presentation. And it is of my opinion, this is strictly my opinion, but it's a good one, to start with the body of the presentation. The body of the presentation is where you already know what you want to say. You already have an idea. Hey, this is what I want to tell my audience. Okay, how do I do this? Where do I begin? So we're going to talk about today. Where do I begin? The types of different presentations there are. There's generally selling and there's educating, but then I want to talk about a few other types of presentations that you can do and employ. And then finally, how much info do I actually put in this presentation? Is it a lot of info? Is it too much? Does it make any sense? How do I know? So we're going to cover all those different topics. So where do I begin? First and foremost, before you ever get up in front of an audience, make sure you know what you want to tell them. Make sure that you know when you're done, they understand what your message was. At the end of your presentation, you should say something like, by the end of this presentation, you will have understood how to put the body of a presentation together. Make sense? By the end of next week's presentation, you will have understood how to make a good introduction and how to make a good conclusion. We're going to go over that next week. So, you create the body first, you put in your 3 to 5 main points, you organize it in a way that has a logical flow. This is the most confusing part for a lot of people. What does logical mean? What is logic?
Have a reason and cause.
Not quite. Keep thinking, what's logic?
Something reasonable.
It makes sense. It's logical. If I told you a story where I started off at the end of the story, then jumped to the middle of the story, then gave you some details about the end of the story, then jumped to the beginning of the story, it's very illogical. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If I were telling you my life story, generally speaking, I would start from where I was born, then where I went to school, then where I got a job, then what I did, and how I ended up here. I wouldn't start, I went to school here, I moved to Bangkok, I took a flight that was in China, and then I was born. It doesn't make any sense. So we're going to go over some logical flows that make sense. You're going to keep it to 3 to 5 bullet points. And the main thing is, always listen for feedback from your audience. How do you get feedback from your audience?
Body language.
Yeah, and what else?
Eye contact.
Yeah. If I try and make eye contact with you and you're not making eye contact with me and you're looking at your cell phone, oh, crap, I just lost you as an audience. So I'm going to say, hey, why are you looking at your cell phone? Hey, what do you want to hear about that I'm not talking about? Hey, why aren't you paying attention? I can do that with the audience. So in future lectures, we're going to talk about how to actually call out the audience. What does it mean to call out? What do I do to you guys when I present? Calling out means to call your name. I'm going to call out your name. I'm going to call you out. I'm going to call you out. Why do I call you out?
To make me take attention.
Right, I want your attention here. If your attention isn't here, I'm doing a bad job as a presenter. But if I call on you, okay, now my content is going to apply a little bit more. And the more I have to do that, the more boring my topic probably is, so I gotta spice things up a bit. That's on me to be able to change up. Those are cues that you need to listen to from your audience. If they're bored out of their minds, they're like, oh, Jesus Christ. You don't want your audience to do that. So, we're going to talk about the selling, right? When you sell something, there's 2 types again, selling and educating. You did a sales presentation, you two today did an education presentation. Personally, for me, I love these kinds of presentations. Why? Because there's a very simple flow and logic to this presentation. First and foremost, I set up a problem. If I am trying to sell something, I make sure there is a problem to solve. That's what you do when you sell. When you sell, when you are trying to get money from someone else, you create a problem for them to fix. Make sense? Same exact thing you're doing. You're creating 3 different trends in the market to be able to identify a problem, and your product can fix those 3 trends in the market. Right. So identify the new customer base, identify the problem that they're not addressing, identify the issue. Then you talk about that customer base. Why is that customer base valid? And again, this is a really exaggerated example. This is overblown, too many talking points, but I want to hammer this point home, so I'm going to cover it in more detail. Why do I take the approach of selling? When you guys are giving your presentations on Johnson's Dictionary, when you're giving your presentation on nature versus nurture, it's not to give us information about nature versus nurture in Johnson's Dictionary. It's to make sure that we actually care about what you're talking about. The only way for anyone to actually care about what you're talking about is if you have something to sell to us. Something for me to buy. Your message is what I am buying. This is why I like sales presentations. They make more sense. I set up a problem. Do you have a dictionary? I need a dictionary. Does everyone have a dictionary? Anyone? No. You have a dictionary? Oh, you want to know why you don't have a dictionary? Let me tell you about Samuel Johnson. All right. Then we identify the opportunities. What happens if we don't have a dictionary? Holy crap, what happens? Oh man, now we've lost the way to be able to communicate and convey our language to future generations. You don't know how to look up the word borderless anymore. We're screwed. Right? Nature versus nurture. Oh my God, what if this problem continues to go on? 85% of the people in the world are just going to obey management and continue to shock everybody underneath them. Do you want your children to be shocked? Would you like it if you were shocked as a child? No, you wouldn't. So how do we go about solving this problem? Make sense? Now we solve this problem by, we have different applications on our phone that can solve the dictionary problem. We solve the problem of Milgram's theory by educating people, by understanding what empathy and sympathy are. So we set the problem up and we solve it. But one more step. How do we know we've solved it? What metrics do we collect to solve it? Right? Why am I going over these exaggerated steps? Why? Yeah, why am I going through the exaggerated steps?
Well, you have to make a step.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps.
Flow.
Logical flow. I set the problem up and I knock the problem down. That's all we're doing. Then we have the other different types of presentations, which is educational. This one, in order to relate to the audience, today you two came up and you basically talked about a presentation. And a lot of it was just talking about facts. The audience wasn't really engaged. We didn't really know what was going on. We didn't really hear how we were affected by your presentation. That's the whole point, is to help us understand why we in the audience are affected. If you cannot convey it to the audience, who cares? What's the point? That's what I'm teaching. So, who is involved in this story? You want to educate us about Samuel Johnson's Dictionary. Who? What did he do? Where did he do it? When did he do it? Why did he do it? And how did he do it? Awesome. This will help you figure out the flow, the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, and the how. Right? In improv, there's a common or there's a popular acronym. What's an acronym? What's an acronym?
Acronym.
Acronym. Acronym.
NYM.
NYM.
คืออะไรนั่นสิ่งมัน
Acronym. A popular acronym here is ASEAN. Is an acronym. What does ASEAN stand for? ASEAN?
Yeah.
What does ASEAN stand for?
Like a vision.
Like the unification of 11 different countries? ASEAN?
ASEAN
What does it stand for?
stand for the
Trade.
Association of Southeast Asian Nations.
อ๋อ ตัวย่อ
ตัวย่อ
ตัวย่อใช่ไหมแบบช็อตlike IELTS
There you go. Yeah.
นั่นแหละ
IELTS,
short
exactly.
test เลยโอเคตัวย่อ
That's an acronym. A popular acronym to think about is CROW. CROWE. See the marker real quick?
เดี๋ยวมันไม่ติด
A popular acronym is CROW. Thank you for two.
โอ้
O-W-E. CROW stands for character. Who are the people in your story? Remember, if we're telling or educating people, we're telling a story. Mani mana, right? It's a story, right? So who are the characters? Mani, mana, ho, me, Jauge, right? The horse. Jauge, remember Jauge?
Yeah.
Chào
Jauge, my bad. Jauge. The relationship, right? What is the relationship between Mani, between Mana, between Chujai, between Sitao, between, what was the dog's name?
ดำดำ
I don't know. I can't remember the dog's name. Right? Right? What was the settings or the observation? What's around them? Are they at school? Are they at home? Where are they? Paint that picture for us.
creepy
Where are they? In the school? Are they in a room? Where are they? And then the emotion. Oh, are they happy? Are they sad? Is Mani yelling at Ta or To because he wants to bite the bow out of Chujai's hand? I remember To wanted to bite the bow out of Chujai's hand. I just got done reading Mani Mana. But anyway, right? Tell us what the emotion is in the room. Why do emotions matter? What's big about emotions? Why do they matter?
It has made us want to follow the presentation.
Okay, what else?
I think it can sense past the audience when you have enthusiasm.
Okay.
The audience can feel your emotion.
Why is that important if the audience feels the emotion? Why?
I think it can the same feeling แบบมันนะ
Is it how your emotion like you will do anything that you want?
Okay. Well, what happens after you leave the presentation? What do you remember the most?
Emotion.
Yeah.
I get good.
Yeah. That's why you want people to understand emotions. Because people connect with emotions before they connect with words. Right? If I tell you you're a good person, you're gonna feel good about yourself. You did a great presentation, by the way.
Wow.
You feel good, right? Standing up here and talking for 10 minutes continuous is not easy. Good job. Giving your first presentation in a room full of people that don't know you at all. Nice work. As you play with a napkin. So that's why emotions matter. But if I told you on the flip side, you know what? Your presentation was pretty bad. You could have done a lot better. Right?
I will get out of
My point. Exactly. Emotions matter. They help us connect with the story. That's why they're important. All right. So here's some different ideas. By no means is one right or the other, but you can do chronological order. If you're talking about history, if you're talking about the order of events that happen in a child's life that affect them before they become an adult, you can go chronological order. They start off as a child, this event happened to them, which later on affected them as teenagers, which later on affected them as young adults, which later on affected them later on in life, right? You can go through that order. Digital marketing, the trend, 1960s, 1970s. What was digital marketing? Billboards, newspapers, but now digital marketing has progressed. Right? We can talk about chronological order. Make sense?
Yeah.
Talking about geography, if we want to tell people about a place or tell people about the brain and emotions and how they work, you start off with a central emotion and figure out how it affects or spawns out from there. Happiness happens from a place. How does happiness, what are the triggers, the individual triggers of happiness? Walk through that. Or if you're talking about cities, regions, talk about Bangkok, talk about Chiang Mai, talk about Phuket. You're going to tell people about the major attractions, how to get from one point to another, what they should see along the way, what they should expect along the way, how much they should pay for it along the way. Right? These are just different examples. If we're talking about digital marketing, we're talking about the evolution of digital marketing and what happens when you place that Facebook ad and the impact it has as it ripples through the world of the internet and how many people it can affect potentially. So you can really say one digital marketing ad has the potential to affect currently about 3 billion people, because that's how many people are plugged in the world today. So you can draw these numbers. You start from the central point, ripple out. What does ripple mean? What is a ripple? Ripple. Yeah, what's a ripple? How many of you have gone to the lake or to a beach? Lake? Pond, a beach? Right, you got Lumpini Park? You know what a lake? What's a lake? What's a lake?
Lake.
Lake. A lake.
Yeah.
Right, what happens when you toss a rock into the lake? And what happens to the water?
กระเพื่อม
อ๋อโอเคเป็นวงแบบซึก
Yeah.
bigger
Those are ripples. Those are ripples. And so why do we use the term ripples? It's because it draws the picture in our mind. Hey, if you do one thing, more and more effect, right? So that's what you can do with your geographical type of flow. Start with one point and measure the effect around that one point as it gets wider and wider and wider. They also call this thing called butterfly effect. Have you heard of butterfly effect?
Butterfly effect.
Yeah. Hopefully something you guys study in psychology.
Yeah, I know that, but I cannot remember.
Good student!
คืออะไรวะ
So what's the butterfly effect? Do you remember what it is? Okay, so a butterfly is famous for flapping its wings. Flaps its wings, what happens to the air around it? The air vibrates. The air continues to vibrate. Thousands of butterflies flapping their wings, air continues to vibrate. That air vibrating can make changes thousands of miles away. That's the butterfly effect. One butterfly flaps its wings, changes can be felt throughout.
จำไม่ได้ด้วย
So that's another way to organize your presentation is the butterfly effect. So right, we talked about time, we talked about the butterfly effect, and finally we're going to talk about biography, where you're talking about somebody. I doubt you're going to do this. Possibly in faculty, you might have to give a presentation about Freud. I don't know, maybe not. Freud, Carl Jung, Alan Watts, whoever knows, right? Or maybe Aristotle, Socrates. Do you have to give presentations on these people? Or more findings? That's not psychology, that's philosophy.
philosophy
Yeah. You don't really give presentations.
อันนี้อริสโตเติลน่าจะไม่เคยมีอริสโตเติล
Aristotle, philosophy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you have to give a presentation about somebody, give a presentation about the aspects of their life. Right? So if you're going to give a presentation about yourself, who were you as a child to your parents? Who were you as a student to your faculty? And who are you as a working professional in the world today? Different aspects. Right? Digital marketing from the perspective of a child who now has a cell phone in their hand. Digital marketing from the perspective of a young adult. Digital marketing from a perspective of a 30-year-old working professional. Everyone has a different means and use and application for digital marketing at different ages and stages of their lives. That's another way to organize these presentations. It all depends on who you're trying to sell into. And I use sell because at the end of the day, you're always trying to sell your point. Because you want people to buy into your message. Selling does not mean it has to be something tangible. What is tangible? What is tangible? Physical, right? These are tangible items. But if I talk about nature versus nurture, if I talk about Samuel Johnson, are those things tangible? Those things are abstract ideas. Always, no matter what, whether it's abstract or what I call concrete or tangible, you're always trying to sell your perspective, your point of view. Make sense? So, how much content do you actually put in? Right? This, I go with time dependent or up until you feel like you've gotten your message across. Time dependent, I'll go back to the 10, 60, 20 rule to make sure that you have 10% for the intro, 20% conclusion, 60 to 80 for the body. How many talking points for the body again? How many talking points? Good. 3 to 5 talking points for the body. Makes sense? How do I get my ideas for my body? I brainstorm, I brain map it. And then I practice. I practice asking myself, would my nephew understand it? Would my niece that you saw in Destin, Florida, would she understand it? She has no clue about Johnson's dictionary, but I'm trying to tell her about it. She has no clue about digital marketing, but I should be able to explain it to her because she is exposed to digital marketing on a day-to-day basis. She's exposed to the nature versus nurture on a digital or daily basis. She's exposed to a dictionary on a daily basis. Could I explain this to a family member who has no idea about what I'm talking about? And then, finally, using that same exact concept, critical thinking. One thing I do, maybe I'm crazy, I don't know, it's possible, but I talk to myself. Like, I imagine myself having a conversation with my friend or a lawyer. Judge, jury. What would they think? Would they want to know more information? Would they want to know less information? Prosecutor, defense. What's a prosecutor? What's a prosecutor? So, anyone know Ryan Lochte? Ryan Lochte. The swimmer from Brazil, Olympics. Okay, never mind. Anyone know someone famous on trial today? Somebody famous? Courtroom? Bill Cosby? Don't know Bill Cosby? Okay. Okay, here's the basic idea. I play, in my mind, prosecutor, defense. If I commit a crime, and I'm accused of a crime, I go to court. This side is the defense. This person, this lawyer, is defending me and saying that I'm innocent. This is a defense attorney. Now, this side, prosecutor. A prosecutor says, you're guilty, and here's why you're guilty. Prosecutor, defense. Not guilty, guilty. So in your mind, when you're giving a presentation, bad presentation, good presentation, think in your mind back and forth what that looks like. So you play what's called lawyer against your own presentation. You think about ways to poke holes in your own argument. This way, if you get questions from the audience, you've already prepared yourself for it. Make sense? If I were to ask you how many clerks actually died, would you be able to tell me? How many clerks died? Clerks. How many assistants of Johnson's died? Why? What happened? Why did they die? Think about it. Back in the day, what were their conditions back in the 60s? When was the dictionary? What year? 1500s? 1400s? 1700s? So what was life like back in the 1700s? Was it like this? Did we have projectors? Did we have the internet? Did we have doctors? Did we have medicine? Probably not. Did we have big cities back in the 1700s? No, life was probably a lot worse back then. You lived outside in the woods. You probably got exposed to a lot of disease. You could have died for a number of reasons. Right? So if you're thinking about it, okay, 2 people died. How did they die? It's kind of important to know. Were they overworked? That's one possibility. Were they living, getting drunk every single night, getting into bar fights? That's another possibility. So critical thinking. And then, lastly, once you put your presentation together, you're going to feel how it goes. You're going to put your own feeling. This is why presentations are an art form. Has anyone ever created art? You ever draw something? How do you feel when you draw something?
Feel from
Create something.
You create something. If it's a really boring class, you're doodling, whatever, or if it's something you're really, really inspired to make, you're like, I really want to make this look really perfect. So you put your own feeling into it. Do I feel blah about it, or do I feel excited about it? And that's why presentations are an art form. You're going to feel how you want the audience to think about what you're doing. Giving a presentation isn't just, hey, let me tell you about this. It's awesome, it's good, you should do it. No, it's about, hey, this is why you should do this because you will gain that. All right, so what do we cover today? Have a point. Make sure you have a purpose. Once you have a point, how do you put that point together? You put it together with the body. 3 to 5 main talking points. Sell or educate. Both at the end, you're selling a message or you're selling a product. Doesn't matter what it is. We talked about some different ways. Chronological order, geographical order, or biographical order, right? Chronological order, the evolution of digital marketing. Geographical order. What I mean by that is talking about nature versus nurture. The ripple effect. Starting off in a child's life. Holy crap, one event spiraled into many events, right? And then content. If you don't have a time limit, if you do have a time limit, we talked about 10, 20, 60, 80, 10, 20. Make sense? If you don't have a time limit, keep it to 10 to 20 minutes maximum. If you take a look at even all the TED Talks that are done today, they're all just about under 20 minutes. Anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. Why? Because you zone out! I can't listen anymore. I can only take in so much information. It sucks. But even today's lecture ran really, really long. I know there's a lot of information that I'm throwing at you. There's a ton of information. The good thing is, it's all going to be posted online, so you can go back and watch this and be entertained by it, and retain this information and memorize it.
so we will break every 20 minutes.
Right. Every 20 minutes we take a break. Exactly. Exactly. So, any questions? The good thing is, this is all really, really obvious. This should all be very, very obvious information. What do I mean by obvious?
It's something clear.
More than clear. This is information that you should already know. What I am telling you is just a different way to think about the information. That's it. All of this stuff that we went over, theory of the presentation, the audience matters, the message, the medium, and you the speaker, the different roles, and then the body of the presentation, how to put it all together. You should know all of this already. You've been doing presentations. You've done this before, and you conversate and you do this. All I'm telling you is a different way to think about it. That's it. And that's what we practice. All right. Good stuff? All right.
Could you give these presentations for us? The